crew, please be seated for the landing. Thank you.
Sawadee Ka. From Hong Kong, every trip starts with a flight, and the more connections, the more remote, usually the more worthwhile. One of the best things about living in Hong Kong is how accessible it is to travel around Asia, and this is my third trip to Thailand. It's only an hour and a half to Bangkok, and that's a breeze, but the place I'm going today is a little bit further. It's dark when we get here, but I could tell by the outline of the mountains it's going to be a really beautiful place. In Bangkok, we get a connecting flight to Krabi, then get a van to the docks, and then take a speedboat to the island of Railay. The place we're going is only accessible by boat and only during high tide. It happens to be low tide, so our boat is met by an amphibious landing craft. None of our luggage gets lost, and I keep all my camera and equipment with me all the time anyway. A lot of connections, and a half a day later, it feels miles away from Hong Kong, and it wasn't such a bad trip, especially considering that it's about 16 hours from New York. I could tell this is going to be great. It's inspiring, and it already feels like one of my paintings. It's interesting that Indonesia has outrigger canoes and Hong Kong has junks. Here in Thailand they have these long-tail boats, which seem very well suited for the shallow landings that they make. This area might start to look familiar. They filmed several movies in the area, including The Man with the Golden Gun, the James Bond movie with Roger Moore. Also, Leonardo DiCaprio filmed The Beach here, and I understand that some of the second season from The Amazing Race was also filmed in this area. To me, it's actually amazing that they haven't filmed more movies. Sadly, it's also the part of the world that was hit very hard during the tragic tsunami in 2004. But the place and the people seem to be rebounding. While I'm here, I'm looking for light, reflections, motion. The long-tail boats make amazingly good subject matter. Anything that looks even ordinary here really becomes looking extraordinary once you get home. I don't paint while I'm on location, I just take photographs. I could cover so much more ground with my camera. And some of these pictures could be made into so many different compositions. By varying the values, the palette, focal point, there's so many possibilities. I like to take the time to reflect, to look for connections. Whenever possible, I work with a tripod. It makes a huge difference in low light situations. And this one is small enough to actually fit in my backpack when it folds up. I never could have gotten these pictures without using a tripod. And I do my best work without shoes on. The light changes quickly and I have to move fast, and sometimes I have other commitments.
Typical vacation.
I try to anticipate the lighting and use the weather to try to bring back some great compositions. I particularly like how the captain becomes the boat and the boat becomes the water. I've always been inspired by Ansel Adams, and even though Krabi has some great color, I'm starting to think that this place looks a little bit like Yosemite's if it was in the islands, and I'm thinking about doing some black and white. One of the benefits of digital is you can make that decision later. On this trip I took about a half hour of digital video and about 500 photos. I like to travel light. For the equipment I carry, I have a Sony PC9 mini DV, digital video. Instead of carrying a sketchbook, I carry my cameras. I've determined that it's very important to use the best. It takes a lot of time, expense to get to a place. You wait for the right lighting, you really have to have the best equipment. I use a Canon 5D digital camera with a 24 to 105 millimeter lens. That gets me a really big range. It shoots 13 megapixel images, which someday in the future it's going to seem like nothing, but at this point produces one of the best images you could get. The camera itself is not that heavy, and it's a first 35mm full frame camera. The other camera I travel with is the Canon PowerShot S400 Digital ELPH. It's not the greatest and latest of the digital cameras, but it's small, lightweight, and I can take it anywhere. In fact, I have an underwater case that I use that allows me to just drop the camera in, snap shut, and I can take it to 40 to 130 feet under the water. It's great in wet environments, rafting trips, kayak trips, any place where there's a lot of salt, and you wouldn't want to bring a more expensive camera with you. I took this picture of my underwater case trying to balance myself while I was kayaking. Then the following pictures I took while I was on a snorkeling trip. Again, it's a very wet environment and I really wouldn't want to have more delicate equipment with me. But this small digital elf with the underwater case works great. There's Nemo and some pictures even from the water itself. Back on land, Thailand's full of beautiful plants, trees, monkeys in the trees, ferns, and all kinds of flowers. It's just a really beautiful place. Thailand is really an amazing place. Every time we walk out to this beach, we're just amazed by how beautiful the mountains are and the scenery. It's just incredible. My artwork is all about lighting, and I try to observe what cliffs, what plants, what beaches, what places will look best at what times of day. This happens to be at 10 o'clock in the morning when the light was just coming over the cliffs. The cliffs themselves are amazing, with sheer drops falling right down to the blue water. There's all kinds of unexplored caves and crevices, homes for animals, like no place I've ever seen. Here I am, Railay Beach, one of the most beautiful places I've ever come to visit. It's just incredible. It's impossibly beautiful, and my biggest challenge is to be figuring out how I could possibly paint it. I've been taking lots of photographs and doing some video, but I don't know if it's going to come through. I really don't. I've been shooting lots of photographs and taking lots of video, and I'm going to use that as a memory in order to bring back and using it as references for my paintings. But the big challenge here is going to be, how am I going to paint such a place? It's just impossibly beautiful. It's great. I recommend this to anyone. Railay Beach, Thailand. You have to visit. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you want to see the paintings that were inspired from this trip, please go to my website, davidbgoldstein.com.